five, four, three, two, one. And we are live whenever you are, wherever you are. Thank you for joining the Design of Everyday People podcast, where I talk to senior designers all over the world and where you get to literally ask them anything. So stick around towards the end of this conversation, about half an hour through, to get your questions answered. Let's start by making this session as interactive as possible and tell me where you're tuning in from. Either drop an emoji or something in the comments just to let me know where you are listening to this. Again, let me put myself on mute on the things that are playing in the background just to see if we're live. All right. And before we get started on this session, and you guys are telling me where you're tuning in from, for this event, we partnered with Gamma. Gamma makes it easy for anyone to create beautiful and effective presentations, websites, social media content, and much, much more. It uses the best AI models, over 20 in fact, and makes content creation feel fun and effortless. My favorite features in Gamma are URL to slides. Literally paste in a URL and it turns it into slides magically. Prompt to slides, so actually describing what you want in one sentence to generate your slides. Responsive slides. I mean, come on, because nobody really likes looking at slides on their phone. So imagine having responsive slides. You can use this for your portfolio, landing page, social media carousels, and so much more. So if you want to try Gamma, you can scan that QR code in the corner or the one I'm about to flash on screen. It's absolutely free to try. Either scan that QR code on screen now or go to gamma.app. And I'll leave the QR code in the corner just for the event. So if you want to try it, feel free to scan that. And Gamma just dropped their new brand yesterday, I believe. And this is it. I'm showing you for the first time one of their launch videos. So if you want to try it, and again, with other 50 million users trying Gamma today. So go check them out and let's get back to the show. And to get back to the show, let's cue that intro music. This is the design of everyday people.
It sound right, boy.
All right, well, welcome, folks. Where are you tuning in from? We have someone here. I don't actually know that flag, so you're gonna have to tell me where that flag is from. My bad. Here we go. Someone else. I believe that's a Thailand flag. Sarah, I actually know you. How are you doing? Haven't seen you in a long time. Okay, we have someone from India, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty bad with my flag knowledge, guys. So thanks for testing me with those emojis there. But let's dive into the show. And today is about how to be a growth designer. That's what we're talking about today. Let's start with a quick round of introductions. As always, I like to start here. I'm Chris, the founder of UX Playbook, but before that, a self taught UX designer struggling to get into UX. And now I spend most of my time helping other designers out there navigate a fuzzy UX career with UX Playbook. And thank you for telling me what that flag's from. Okay, got it. Cheers, dude. Um, so UX Playbook is guiding designers from building your first portfolio to leading your first design team. But that's enough about me. Today, I'm joined by Kristina Volchek, previously a senior product designer turned growth designer, a career coach, and a teacher on Dribble and the Growth Design School. So let's get her out here and find out more about Kristina. How's it going, Kristina? Let me bring you out.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
I am doing well, and I'm sure the others on the call are doing fine as well. So, for those who don't know about you, Christina, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, as you can guess, my name is Christy or Christina. I prefer Christy. It's a bit shorter and nicer and it has a nicer vibe. So Um, my background is in digital marketing. I was working as a chief marketing officer, then I quit, switched my career to a freelance product designer. Then I was working for teams and companies as a product designer, and it led me to being a freelance growth designer eventually, helping solopreneurs and content creators to achieve their goal. I guess that's it. Oh, I also need to mention my teaching. I was teaching at Dribble courses, and this year I'm teaching at Growth Design School. So join our April cohort if you're interested.
Awesome. Okay. And I just want to remind the folks that are listening to, as we talk about growth design, how to get into the industry and the nuances of kind of navigating this career, to drop your questions in the comments. If an idea comes up and something you're like, oh, you said something, but can you clarify? Drop that in the comments and we'll answer that at the tail end of this. So let me set us off here. Let's go back to this. Sorry, let me change that. Okay, so how do we start this? Well, okay, growth design has exploded, right? 75% increase over the last decade. However, most product designers or UX designers or UI designers don't know how to speak the language of business, how to focus on outcomes versus aesthetics, how to grow skills and transition into growth if they want to become a growth designer, and how to show revenue impact in their portfolios. So designers are completely unprepared for um, that kind of design, growth design. And that's where we come in today. And Christy, that's where you come in as well. So let's just dive into how to be a growth designer. And the perfect place, I think, for us to start is, why don't you tell us about how you sort of got into growth design from your background?
I think it's a perfect start because a personal story always adds a bit of clarity. How can I also be one of them? Who are those monsters, growth designers? And so far, actually, I would mention I know like two types of growth designers I've personally met. It is either someone coming from marketing background as I did and becoming a designer, or designers who got interested about the business side of um, product and went into growth. So back to my story. um, I was a chief marketing officer managing 50 plus people, quite a big team in a medium-sized tech company back in Belarus. And I was getting really tired of marketing because especially like if you're in C-level roles, you don't even touch marketing. You don't do any marketing anymore or any business related activities. All what you do is mostly managing salaries, hiring. Oh, someone has a problem. Now we need to decide our financial strategy. And it's getting quite boring and out of touch with the actual job. So I also was living in Belarus, and then I decided to move to Poland. And together with this relocation, I just quit my job and I started looking for opportunities where I can start, what I can do. And my partner, he's a web developer. So it was kind of a natural move for me to start helping him a bit of with visual challenges because I was always good at it. Even as a marketer, you need to design a lot. Presentations, all those ads, marketing slides and stuff like that. Someone needs to do them. And in majority of cases, designers are too busy to help you with those small everyday tasks, and you end up doing it. So when I started freelancing as a designer, mostly helping small businesses with web design and things like that. And I was already positioning myself as a marketing designer, something a bit different. So I was like, I'm not only like will design for you something, I will also think it more strategically, business wise. So this business side of marketing framework, it was already with me. even when I started freelancing as a designer. And then after some time working as a freelance designer, helping with experimentations, different agencies, and so on, Sweatcoin team reached out to me, and they were looking for someone to join their growth design team, more like growth team. And my background mix of skill was a perfect match for this role because they need someone who understands the marketers, the business, and the design. So that's how my personal journey started. I kind of jumped into a already established team. So it was much, much easier for me because I could learn a lot from the team members already. And it's not something that I would need to prove to stakeholders that growth design works. They already believed in it. So they were just looking for a perfect person. And basically, that's how my experience with growth design started. And then we had quite a significant achievement with Sweatcoin team, gaining around 66 million new users within a year, all with our quite small growth design team focused on acquisition that year. So basically, now with this case study on my portfolio, it's like a badge that you can bring to the table every time. And it helped me a lot switching to freelance, back to freelance, and starting freelancing as a growth designer, because now you have a proof that you can help any business or you know what you're doing.
That's awesome. That what a great case study and achievement in your career, and hopefully you can surpass that. Right, if you have the opportunity to 100 million or a billion, that would be really really cool. Okay, so for the folks on the call, and I'm just going to ask a stupid question because maybe a lot of folks on the call don't know what growth design is or what a growth designer does. Can you just kind of give us like a brief summary of or at least how do you define it?
I like to think about growth design as a bridge between product design, business, and marketing, because when those teams are disconnected, there is no single person or team who can connect them together and look at the situation strategically and look for the opportunities, what could be improved, either on the business, marketing, or product design side, because each team works a bit in a bubble of their own responsibilities, goals, and what they're looking for. So this perfect team bridging all the activities together and have a more strategical approach is the best kind of like positioning of growth design I envision myself. And it also helps to understand how much communication is important for a growth designer, because when you're bridging something or connecting different teams, you need to find the right approach to each of the team.
Yeah, and how would you say it differs from product design?
I would say the biggest difference is not hard skills. It's not something that you need to kind of like heavily tune up or spend more time polishing your Figma skills. No, it's not going to help. It's about the mindset, the growth mindset, and the way you look at everything you do. So I would say, first of all, it's a growth mindset where you're not afraid of making mistakes, where you're looking for opportunities, experimentations. When you have this natural curiosity, when you developed your curiosity to ask questions, to challenge things, to rethink something that was already established and break it and rebuild it again. And the other side of this is, I would say, also the business aspect, because if you don't understand the business, if you don't understand why we are all here on this team, what we are doing here, um, it's pointless. And many designers, even growth designers, they have this mistake of forgetting why we're here, because it's as a growth designer, you can also experiment, start playing. It's such a playground for you, for your mind, for your curiosity. Um, but we need to remind ourselves we are here to make money. The whole company exists to make money, and in the end point, at the very end, it's all about making money. So this goal needs to always circulate in somewhere at the back of your head when you work as a growth designer.
Got it. I think that's a perfect sort of segue into like the foundational skills. I know you mentioned some of them in terms of mindset, but are there any other sort of fundamental skills that you believe are important to sort of transition into the field? Say you're a UX designer or a product designer, and you want to say, okay, I want to try growth design, but what foundational skills do I need, or what could I add on to my repertoire?
So basically, there is a base you need to have, a solid base of being ideally senior product designer, because if you're transitioning from UX, you need to learn product design first and then kind of adding growth design on top. I would say the perfect person to transition is to growth design is a senior product designer, because you already have a foundation. You know how to work with the teams, you know how to manage your workflow, your projects, and you have this solid foundation. If the foundation is lacking, it will be a problem for you. It doesn't mean it's impossible. Everything is possible if you work hard enough, but it just will be harder than for someone who has a solid foundation. So senior product designer is kind of foundation you need to have. So you need to know all the design systems, accessibility, user research, working with business, stakeholders, developers. So it's just the base. And on top of it, you're applying the mindset, the soft skills, the business mindset, and also a deeper connection to knowledge, to data knowledge, because you will be working more with experimentation. It doesn't mean you need to be a data scientist. I'm not saying you need to know all the perfect formulas on how to predict where this curve will go. No, but you need to understand how to read the data and how to find insights in the data, because every piece of data can be translated differently. So I would say this is like the core skill set. You put the product design at the base, and then you add in growth mindset, business mindset, data understanding, a bit of marketing skills, and put it on top of it. You put your storytelling skills to present it to stakeholders and everyone else.
Yeah, let's double click on the storytelling. Like, why is that important for a growth designer?
Um, because growth design is still quite a new niche. So if you're lucky and you're working with a team who already appreciates growth design and understands how it works and have, I would say, realistic expectations, because this is the problem with all the boom and everyone is like, oh, let's hire growth designers. They will just like fix everything. So this is really hard situation to be popular in the market, because you can end up at a team with expectations that are far beyond reality. So I would say storytelling is extremely important to connect with those people and explain the right story to them the way they understand. So yes, our product is right here, but if we will put those steps, if we will spend time here and money here, that's where we go. But not tomorrow. It will take X months or days or years to be there where we want to be. But right now we're here. But this is our journey. And the ability to tell stories not only helps with job search or presenting to clients or presenting to other designers, it helps you in everyday life, because you connect with people, you find the right opportunities better, because you know how to tell your story and their stories and help others, people on your team, to be heard, because like there are developers and they're not the best storytellers, but they have a lot of valuable insights, and being their entrepreneur, bringing their insights into the team and telling their story is also very, very powerful skill. And if you're a growth designer who knows how to do storytelling, you can really take over the entire team. It sounds a bit evil now when I say it.
Yes, let's take over the world. Um, okay, let's say that I'm a senior product designer and I'm like, okay, I believe I have like the mindset of a growth designer and I'm looking to pursue that. Um, let's chat about what my portfolio like how my portfolio needs to be different.
I would say you already have amazing base. You already have real projects, you know the stories behind them, you know all the challenges, all the problems you've been facing. And now it's again a bit of storytelling because it's about reframing what you already have and present it in the way that is more suitable for your target company or job or a client. Someone is looking for growth designer. So let's think what they would look for. Probably outcomes, right? If you're looking for a growth designer, you're interested in growing something. So the first thing the company would take a look at it is the outcomes. Once the outcomes or like the hook for them is the outcomes is there presented, they will dive in and try to understand if you were capable to explain how you achieved those outcomes and why you achieved them. Because sometimes, even if I see growth designers' portfolios with amazing outcomes, but I don't see how and why, I'm not sure if they did something, if they know what happened, or it was just luck. So imagine always try whenever you're preparing your portfolio for growth or for regular product design, trying to imagine a person who is looking at your portfolio and trying to find the missing pieces of their ideal picture of a designer they're looking for. And if you just put those pieces there, that's perfect. That's exactly what is needed. And for growth designers, those pieces are a good outcome and also an understanding how you achieved it and the promise that I will be able to join your team and do the same for your product.
Right. And I guess how do we go about showing our solution in growth design? Because maybe it doesn't have to be the interface. Maybe there's something boring in the background, tiny little tweaks. Does that matter as much? Showing like um, stuff that's visual on a growth designer's portfolio.
I would say in the current market, yes. Probably a few years ago, you can skip the beautiful visuals, but now the reason why I mentioned that you need to be senior product designer to have this base, it already means you are good with visuals. You're good with presenting your work and making sure your UI is pixel perfect and attractive because it's about attracting people, attracting clients. It's even more important for freelance growth designers because people consume with their eyes. They're not hiring just, problem solver. They're hiring a designer, a person producing visual work who will change the way their product looks or works, or both of it at the same time. So obviously they're looking for visuals. And for growth designer, it's even more important because you don't need to produce pixel perfect visuals, but they need to be good enough, aligned with the design system to be tested, verified, and to prove your hypothesis, to make sure your outcomes works. You will always have like product team in the background to polish this visual direction probably and create all the variations and states and everything, but you need to move fast as a growth designer. And if you're lacking visual skills, you can't move fast. You will rely on other designers and team members too much.
Right, right. Well, maybe this is probably a good segue into like, let's just say I'm a senior product designer and I'm interested in growth design, but because I'm quite senior as a senior product designer and I've done some growth design work before, should I go freelance or should I think about in-house opportunities? Like, how do you think about that? Because you've done both. So, what are the like realities or pros and cons that you can kind of share with us?
I would say if it's your first time trying to do growth design, it would be much more beneficial to join a team because you will get the process right. You don't need to rediscover the insights or trying to understand how it all works, or organizing it your own way when there's something established and already working. And especially if you're joining a team with established growth design team or growth team that have processes, experimentation, data gathering, data sharing, and everything works smoothly and perfectly. So you don't need to kind of build it from scratch. You just dive in and you learn on the go. And also you have less distractions. You don't need to think about, oh my God, how we can collect data. Should I recruit users myself? Because especially if you're working like for smaller products as a freelance designer, there's always less people. So I would say the perfect opportunity for first timers is joining an existing team as part of the product. Because it would be harder simply to start freelancing. But once you worked as a part of the team, moving to freelance career could be quite natural, because at some point, it also probably depends on the person, but um, the right kind of type of personality for a growth designer is almost an entrepreneur in a way, or solopreneur, someone who owns a lot of things, wears multiple hats. I'm business owner, I'm product manager, I'm product designer, I do research, I talk to developers. So you're already a business on your own. So once you have all those valuable skills and you manage so many things, moving to freelance or solopreneurships is just quite natural, because why do you need someone else when you're an entire team on your own? And I would say in the current job market and freelance market, being this entire team on your own is very rewarding. It's something that, many people, especially because I also do career coaching sometimes, and juniors always may ask, like, what's going on? The market is terrible. The way to stay ahead of market is to do everything and be one of the best. So if you're in top 10, you don't worry to find your next client, you don't worry to land your next job. So instead of thinking how to get the next client or how to apply to this particular job, I always recommend to think of how I become in top 10. And top 10 is much more achievable than you think. It's not that far away.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, let's like, what do you prefer in terms of, do you prefer working in house or do you prefer freelance? Like, what stage are you in now in your career? Like, in house or freelance? What do you prefer?
Personally, I prefer freelance because of the freedom to choose projects, freedom to choose something that is more interesting, something that will boost your curiosity. Because when you work as a team, there are still tasks that are not so interesting or something that just needs to be done. But when you're freelancing and you own your time and you own your client base and you own your business, you can pick the most interesting projects and you can choose something that you will definitely enjoy working on. And when you enjoy working on something, you put more effort. And as a result, the outcome is better and everyone is happy. The client is happy, you're happy. So, in that term, freelancing is definitely more beneficial for people with the right mindset. I'm not saying freelancing is for everyone because it's not so stable. And I know many designers who would prefer just to find this job and stay here and just feel more secured. But in my vision of the world, it's way less secured because you can be fired at any day. Like, I don't know, it's illusion. It's illusion of being more secured or illusion of safety, because the reality is when you're a freelancer, you can find a job at any time, anything you want, and you can double your income, triple your income, or do whatever you want. If you want to sacrifice more hours of your life and just earn more, or just choose more flexible lifestyle, more freedom, or just like work less but still having a nice income. So it's about the balance and choosing what's right for you, because I don't blame people who don't want to freelance because I know many people who are not the right type of people to do freelance, because on the surface it looks beautiful, but we don't mention the taxes, the nights with your accountant, all the legal stuff and everything. And on top of it, like with full-time jobs, how the interview process happen. Yeah, you can look for jobs for 2-3 months, having interviews and so on. But then for a year or two, you can just relax. Well, with freelancing, every new project is an interview in a way, interview process. Uh, you're getting a new job every couple of weeks. And especially if you're working with smaller projects, it could be just like an interview and every week. But on the other hand, you're getting so comfortable with it that if an interview is not an interview anymore, it's just something like daily lifestyle. Yeah, I had another interview today. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on your personality. So don't, my general advice is don't to push yourself in something that is unnatural to you. Choose something that is more comfortable, and it will be beneficial for your career, your portfolio, and for your financial stability.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to kind of finish off on that point of like freelancing, um, is like how do you view folks who position themselves as a freelancer, consultant, or an agency? Are there like would you advise people to sort of be like, hey, do the freelance thing first and then move up the ladder? Or are they all the same thing, but just called differently and positioned differently?
They're not the same because they are targeting different type of clients. You can't call them the same. I mean, the work is the same. You do the design, but a type of client, a type of project is different. If you position yourself as a freelancer, it's something smaller, smaller gigs, probably website redesign, small projects, newsletter design. For example, I started doing a lot of Beehive newsletter design. So basically, they're reaching out to me and it's like a short-term project. So I would definitely position myself as a freelancer for this type of project. When you position yourself as an agency, even if you're a team of one, basically you're taking the responsibility of the entire agency. So the client or the project will be bigger and they're expected to be kind of like the whole process is expected to be more professional. So it's less casual. It's more like, this is my corporate email sent to you from our agency. Our sales manager, which is also me, told me that you were looking for changes in our beautiful website. So, it's a bit of like a bit more corporate, and you also land in larger projects. Which has its own, each direction has its own pros and cons. I also like to position myself more like a solopreneur, helping creators and other solopreneurs, because then I can narrow down my target to my ideal client, because solopreneurs and creators is very interesting type of client. It's probably not for everyone, but if you enjoy working with people who are also a team of one, and you kind of like blend in together really nicely, it might be the perfect market for you as well. But it really depends again on your goals as a freelancer or agency or whatever way you position yourself, what type of projects you want to work with, and what type of clients you want to work with.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Is there anything that we didn't touch on before we go to audience questions? Working with developers.
Oh yeah, I think like this is something that is overlooked a lot with because the way you work with developers as a growth designer, as a product designer, and also adding freelance versus in-house is a bit different. So at the growth designer, it's really important to have developers with the right mindset on your growth team. It's a bit different mindset for a developer. It's not like we're creating this perfect code that will last for ages for the entire product. It's about like, I'm trying to break the product without breaking the product. And so someone later can take this half broken code and make it a part of the product. So you have to keep in mind that you need to be a team with your developer, because growth design requires you to move faster than product design. You break things, you do hypotheses, you test a lot, and those testings needs to be as fast as possible, so you're not wasting entire team time on a task that is not beneficial for business at all. So when you pair well with your developer and work directly and kind of like continuously exchange with feedback, when you're in your early drafts, it helps a lot because developer is aware of what's coming and they can advise you on how to build it faster, so you can design it the way to build faster. So this combination of when you work as a growth designer or developer, it's really important. And now if we apply the in-house versus freelance, there is a huge difference, because in-house, obviously, you can collaborate deeply, have deeply kind of like daily meetings, chats, anything you need to keep in touch. While with freelance, you need to think just you need to think upfront of all the questions the developer can ask you. So basically leaving all the comments in Figma, leaving design variations. So whenever I freelance as a growth designer, I would leave like, so if this faster to build, go with B screen and so on. So basically, I would just create more options for developer to pick from, and then use my comments and navigation to kind of like, okay, this is what they wanted to test, and now it's clear. And versus if you're a product designer, it's also extremely important to connect with your developer, because on the product design scale, your goal is a bit different. You're building a long-term relationship and long-term features that will stay probably for some time in the product. So you need to make sure that developer builds it the way it's scalable. So whenever you design the feature, you want to make sure you connect with developer, and also that they understand that this feature can grow and expand and so on. And again, there is a slight difference between in-house, where you can daily chat and really connect, versus if you're freelancing as a product designer, you just need to prepare more detailed documentation. And I always ask my clients to have at least an intro chat with developer, where I can do handoff via Zoom or anything. And as a last resort, if it's not possible, I would leave some Loom recordings on the screens where it's not fully clear. But again, treat your developers well, and it really pays off, because your design can die in Figma and never be built until you have the very skilled and right developer to work with.
Yeah, exactly. That's so, I think, underrated in terms of treat your developers well. I think it's a mantra for all product teams that need to say, just treat your developers well. Even if there's AI that can do some of the front end code, it isn't without some other person coding to connect it all up, right? Okay, so let's jump into some of the questions that you guys have asked. Again, drop them in the comments if you want us to answer them. So let me ask this one first. I'll be happy to seek some book recommendations to grow as a growth designer. Any recommendations, Christy?
Oh, it's an unexpected one. Get ready. I recommend Win Every Argument by Mehdi Hassan. So let me explain a bit. I see argument is not something when you're screaming at each other in the office. Argument is anytime you have a different views, or you're trying to present your point of view to someone else. So it's really connected to storytelling, but it's more proactive, because instead of like teaching you how to write your stories, he teaches you how to bring your vision and explain it the way other people can understand. And also put the emotional context into it. Because to win an argument, and especially in presence of the audience, you need to be very emotional because, and kind of like unexpected turn for the book, but facts are less important than emotions, even when it comes to argumenting in public. So, really good book. I would say I don't recommend it only for growth designers. I recommend it for all the designers. Please put it as a Bible on your table and learn how to prove your arguments and how to show your story to everyone.
That's a great one. I have two potentially more. Actually, no. What two books specifically on methodology, and I would say also mindset. Which is the first one is Lean Startup. So that loop of like build, measure, learn. That loop and use cases and examples of how to go through that loop. So Lean Startup is one, and then the other is Hacking Growth, which is another example and methodology book. So if you wanted to dive into like, okay, what does experimentation look like in different startups? How does it work? Then those are two I recommend.
Yeah, it's a good choice. It's more like more logical than my recommendation, but I always try to bring the soft skills because that's what more important in the current market. Even if you know all the methodology and how the startups works, you will lose against someone who's better at interviews. That's all, no matter how skillful you are.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Let's okay, so someone said, could you dive deeper into what understanding the business means? I think we this was mentioned earlier in terms of fundamental skills and foundational skills.
When I say understanding the business, I mean understanding its core, like, and it's not only like the numbers we're trying to achieve or anything like that. It's the entire strategy. Why does this product exist? Who are the people we serve? What are the problems we're solving? And how those problems can be monetized. And I also teach the monetization at the Growth Design School week. So I'm a big fan of monetizations and diving into this topic. But really understanding monetization helps you stand out across other designers because when you think money, you think alike with the stakeholders. They don't care that much about user problems. That's your job to make sure users are not getting hurt. That's your job as a designer to make sure users are happy. But stakeholders think about money. And when you can speak money, understand monetization, and understand how business produces those money and where the other sources we can earn them from, then that's a winning position in any team.
Right. So understanding the business in this sense is like understanding how the business makes money and opportunities for the business to make even more.
Yeah, and also like the overall like businesses processes and management and everything. You need to understand the structure of your organization because sometimes growth design opportunities are not happening on the outer side with customers. They can also happen inside the team. When you see the opportunities to optimize, for example, the ways the sales team works, there's a gap or disconnection that we're losing, I don't know, millions of dollars daily because sales team not getting some kind of data that is important for their decisions. This is even bigger opportunities than trying to fix something on outside that is already working quite well. Clients are paying and everything works, and you're looking for those small fake opportunities while there's a huge hole in your design, in your organizational process. So I would say understanding the business means a bit of all aspects of business, how it functions, what are the challenges, how it works on like management level, team level, processes, and everything. And on top of it comes the monetization because that's the main goal because you can't really focus too much on processes and everything when company is not making money.
That's right. And I think being a solopreneur is probably the best way to figure out and to understand the business. When you say the business, it's the thing that you're doing, but it gives you a good general overview of how hard having a business is. Like, you might hate the CEO of your company or some senior stakeholder. But once you're in the shoe of the senior stakeholder, meaning you have to generate revenue for your, template you released on Notion, then you understand the struggles that they do, because they have to do the same on a larger scale. So there's no better way to learn than, starting a side project or freelancing or doing these little things to see if you can actually earn money outside your 9 to 5, to really understand, like, oh, uh, this is why they care about money so much, because otherwise it would die in a hole, right?
Yeah, and also it kind of changes your perspective. Now I always feel sorry for stakeholders because there's so much on their plate. And for example, when you understand how much is on their plate, you don't want to waste their time. So instead of like diving into like, oh, we discovered this lovely user problems, there was an interface. No. So there was a problem. I fixed it. This is how much money we made. Perfect. I love you. You're best designer I've been working with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so there's another one about portfolio here, and I think there's a few more. But what could be possible portfolio project, or examples of a portfolio project for someone who's a beginner who wants to get in growth design?
Well, as I mentioned, it would be really tough. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would be really tough because you will be competing with a bunch of seniors who just wants to transition into growth, or even who doesn't want to transition into growth because they will be the first candidates to get hired into growth design. So you will be a lot of steps behind anyone else in the market. I would honestly, I would not recommend to jump into growth from like beginner positions. It would be really hard, even if you will land a job. I don't think you would like it because you will be working 24/7. It's impossible to maintain the senior product design speed, and on top of it, learning those small other skills needed, like specific for each organization, how their processes work, what's their monetization model, how the team functions, how the product functions, where are the opportunities to earn those money. And I mentioned on top of it, also learning how to be a product designer. Honestly, I would kill myself. But if you're still considering this tough opportunity, I would say start small. Find a side gig, a small project, help someone to improve their lead generation on their website, or find a local website that, like your coffee shop, that is barely working. They don't have even like they are, for example, offering delivery services, but it's not even visible on their website. So just adding this information to their website would be a perfect small case study, saying like, this is was small business. They had 0 clicks, 0 orders, and now they have 10 orders from their website. With this some small experiment, you can feature that you have the right mindset to look for opportunities, even as a beginner, so you will be considered a highly more interesting candidate than someone else who didn't do anything about growth at all.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, find someone that you could help them, have an uptick in metrics, whatever metrics they care about, like lead gen or, emails received, etc., etc. I love that. Okay, another one here. Oh, this is just saying thank you for the good book recommendations and couldn't agree more about the importance of soft skills. Okay. Mohammed says, how can we get the actual hidden operations that take place in companies if I work as a freelancer? Is it only from the interview?
I'm not sure I fully getting it. Do you mean like if you're interviewing with a company and you're lacking details on their processes, or
Let me assume what Mohammed is trying to say. I think he's trying to say, like, as a freelancer, I only have, like, I only see the client at the beginning of the project. How do I know these internal hidden operations stuff, right? As a freelance designer or a growth designer, or how do I get it? Is it only from that initial interview? How do I discover things that the client is not telling me?
Well, you need to be proactive. You can't discover if you lack in details. You can't just go and read your client's mind or saying like, oh, probably in the first interview, he meant we need more leads on the website. So you need to be the annoying designer, what I call, uh, someone who asks questions, challenges assumptions, challenges the things, the ways they work right now. Because when a client is hiring a designer, and especially growth designers, they're hiring an expert, someone who will join their team and tell them what to do, not just be in their hands. And in general, it's accurate for any freelance designer. Whenever a client is hiring a designer, they don't want to just someone to do the graphics. They can ask ChatGPT pretty much already. I mean, a few more months and this is gone. Um, but honestly, they're asking for an expert, someone who will tell them what to do and what they're doing wrong, someone who will teach them and explain how it should be done. It's the same with growth design. If you're lacking any details, if you have not enough information, go ahead and ask it. Schedule another call, chat, dive into their notion, anything that will help you, ask for access, because you can't help them without knowing those details. What the point even of your help here if you don't know them?
Yeah, I love that. Okay. I guess last question from me. Oh no, there's a few that has come through. Okay, I didn't see this. Okay, here we go. Um, is there any specific area to focus for a T-shaped UX engineer like me who is more focused on development part of design?
Well, it's advice is pretty the same. You need to know the business side again, because just the difference that you also build in things doesn't change the overall framework. There is no sense in building something that doesn't work. So in your case, I would also additionally focus on learning on how to think in those smaller experimentation options, what you can do both as a designer and developer to test it quickly. Because for many developers, especially I worked with, the natural desire is to go and build entire feature. Like, for example, we want to test if, for example, notification that your friend accepted your invite to this product works. This is our hypothesis. And developer will be go, yeah, let's build this complex backend feature of where we track that invite was accepted and then we send notification. And like, oh, wait, what about just a fake door? We show the notification and we see how many users clicked. Is there any interest? And then we say something like, oh, this feature is getting alive soon. Do you like it? Tell us more. So you're already gathering a bit of feedback. So every time when you're thinking about, like, as a developer, you're always practicing, like thinking, how do I build it? So try to pose yourself here and think, like, zoom out and see a bigger picture. How can I test it without actually building it? That's a trick.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that where like you have the chops of shipping something and you're moving up the scale of actually designing something too or helping with the design. And it would be awesome if you could put the hat of either the growth designer or the product manager or the stakeholder of the business and be like, well, why should we build it? Where's the opportunity here? Then I could actually ship it end to end. I mean, I'm frankly jealous of you. If I was a UX engineer going into what I'm doing now, I can ship so many things so quickly because I'm like, I know my why. I know why I want to test this, right? It's just the solopreneurs that cannot code would always be a step behind, in my opinion, than solopreneurs who can code. Uh, right? Because that is like making it real. We can do other things, of course, but I think you have a good baseline, right? You're T-shaped already. You just need to become like M-shaped or another weird shape.
C-shaped, like C-level,
Yeah, yeah, or
C-level
V-shaped,
design
whatever.
engineer.
There you go.
W. Yeah,
Yeah,
W has
W-shaped.
them. Yeah, yeah. I think W has a lot of shapes, so that's a perfect one.
Okay, BW, my friend, BW. Okay, here's another one. How to grow a relationship with a product manager for a designer to streamline work. What are your tips and tricks in your past that helped you build a relationship with a product manager or someone in your organization?
I love this question because it's really important to work well with product managers. So your best friends are developers and product managers, because most likely your design feedback, your wonderful hypothesis will be presented to stakeholders by your product manager. So you have a lovely broken phone here, and if you don't work well with this phone, the message will never make it through. So, and to build this relationship, again, you need to speak the product manager language. You need to understand things they care about. And again, it's the same as growth designers, they care about money. Their goal that comes from stakeholders, how we can monetize things, how we can improve engagement, so more users sustained, so more money coming into the product. So basically, you need to speak their language. And for growth designers, it's almost impossible to have bad relationships with product managers, because you are aware how important of all the business metrics are. So you're automatically already on the same page with them. And by default, being a growth designer just open a next kind of like level of relationship with a product manager.
Hmm. And there's a follow-up question here around the same topic. How do you earn trust from stakeholders if you don't have a title?
Well, it's not about titles. Oh my God, people are so obsessed with titles. There are two things designers are obsessed with is titles and their portfolios. And especially like junior designers, they're like, "Oh, should I apply for mid-level jobs because I'm still not mid and I'm junior?" And like labeling and everything. I really personally don't like labeling. Labeling means nothing. You can be senior with 10 years of experience and zero knowledge of the current industry. Figma changes sometimes. I have those interviews with people who are like 20 years in the industry, and they are absolutely out of touch with the industry. So um, your seniority or PM title doesn't mean anything. The way you present information, the way you present your story, that's what's important, and the language you speak. Again, if you speak money, if you speak in a language that is clear for stakeholders, you don't need to earn their trust. You don't need to prove something. Your confidence and your understanding of the situation and their goals is what immediately tells them, I can trust this person. They understand what I expect from my business, what I expect from this professional I hired. So I don't need to worry about them. They will do just fine. That's how you earn the trust. You basically you just have it automatically when you do the right thing.
Hmm. And I think this is a perfect question to sort of end up. How can we identify if one wants to be a growth designer as someone who's starting out as a product designer? Do you know? Is it possible to know? Or how did you identify that you wanted to be a growth designer?
I would say there will be signs. Oh, it sounds scary. But basically, if you're more curious than other designers, if you go far beyond the current task and ask like, yeah, we're redesigning the onboarding, but why we do that? What marketing team is presenting in their ads that we need to redesign onboarding? If you like go far, far away strategically, you zoom out of the problem and trying to understand all the aspects of the problem and how it was formed, and look for opportunities to improve them. If you have this hungry, curious mind that always challenges things, it's a sign that you will be the right fit for a growth designer. And And another sign is your proactivity. Growth designer is a person who doesn't wait to be invited to the table. They invite themselves, they join the table, and they start managing the table in a way. But yeah, basically, if you see yourself as someone who's more proactive and challenges those established beliefs or designs or anything, that's the right path for you. Just start building your career towards this direction, and it would be extremely beneficial because you will be the right fit, the right type of personality to be there. So it will be much, much easier for you to be there and more enjoyable as well.
Yeah. So, guys, if you go to a party and whoever crashes the party is usually a growth designer, or at least there's some signs like that person didn't like invited themselves. Are they a growth designer? You know, gotta check their
Probably.
LinkedIn.
Or just an extrovert. By the way, I'm not extrovert. It's just my professional extrovertism that you bring on the table. But yeah, basically, as a growth designer, you can't be behind the table. You can't be sitting silently and just trying to experiment alone. That's a very team job, a very active job, a very proactive job. So if you don't like being the point of attention and have all the lights on you, probably don't follow this path.
Okay, you've been warned, guys. Okay, you've been warned. Before you read those books, there are some caveats to this thing. Christy, it's been so nice having you on and to give us, your experience and talk about growth design for the folks on the call who are interested and want to dive in and read around the topics. I think what you mentioned is just really helpful, just from someone who's been in the industry and had a ton of experience and career coaching and even teaching in your own course and stuff. Before we let you go, do you want to tell the audience where they can find you? I've got a thing that I want to show as well. Like, what are you up to? Just tell the audience. I'll give you your space.
Well, basically, you can just visit my website, christy.digital, and learn more about me. I also have a newsletter for designers, but I kind of supposed to write monthly, but it's more when I have an inspiration, when I have something to share. So if you're interested in following my journey or get random advices and updates in your inbox, check out my newsletter at blog.christy.digital. And connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. I'm always open.
Yeah. So, guys, if you want to connect with Christy, you can go to this event somewhere. There'll be a link somewhere in terms of like the speaker, or I've tagged her somewhere. But scan that QR code on the right and check out Christy's other work. She's all over the interwebs, so she's easy to find. That's good. Again, thank you so much for joining. Christy, I'm going to take you off stage while I just wrap this up, and maybe we can have a debrief after just a few
Yes,
minutes.
sounds good.
All right.
And
Well,
thank you so much for having me. Have a nice day, evening, or morning, whatever you have, guys.
all right. Thank you very much. I'll take you off now. Bye. All right, guys. Again, follow Christy. I'll leave her LinkedIn and her website in the YouTube descriptions. In LinkedIn, you can find it. Just click on that stuff below. And before we go, of course, we want to thank our sponsor of today. And today's sponsor is Gamma. As I said earlier, if you've if you are tried let's start that again. If you are tired of spending hours making presentations, I know I am, Gamma is a must try. Gamma has already 50 million users. That's right, 50 million users. 700,000 presentations are created every single day with 4 million images generated. So, with that much sort of volume, it's kind of a no brainer to try it for yourself. So, you can either scan this or scan this to give Gamma a try, or just click on gamma.app, which is also in the LinkedIn description, and it should be on YouTube as well. And if you're still using PowerPoint, we cannot be friends. Okay, guys, get off of PowerPoint. Seriously. And I also want to talk about our next live. Our next live pod is on April the 30th. So not next week, but the week after. It's how to get great feedback to make great designs. And it's with the founding designer at Workflow, Jonathan Quaid. And we'll be speaking about how to build your feedback system for design, how to ask for design feedback and get what you need, because a lot of times we don't, and how to decide when to act on feedback and actually when to ignore it. All things that we go through as designers and so much more. Of course, he'll be answering your questions as well. He's building tools for this specific thing with Workflow. So check that out. And to listen to more of conversations like this, again, the QR codes are on the screen. You can scan them or head to live.uxplaybook.org and you'll get notified for future events like the one coming up. And before I go, this is actually our 50th episode or stream or live thing. I don't know what to call it. I'm still kind of like figuring that out, but that's crazy. It just started as an experiment and 50 episodes later. So I appreciate a subscribe on YouTube or via this QR code. Thank you guys for having us. And until next time, bye. This is the design of everyday people.
It sound right, boy.
This is the design of everyday people.
It sound right, boy.